What is up, homies? Welcome back to another trailer reaction from Here's Reforged. We're checking out the very first trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day. I know people are going to complain about us watching these trailers quote-unquote late. I was traveling. I was in Amsterdam literally this morning. So we're getting to a little late, but very excited to be here. The one nice thing about being offline for most of my vacation, or at least like not looking at anything entertainment-based, unless it was the Oscars, is I don't know anything about this trailer other than that there is one. So I'm very excited to see what the hell is going to happen in this trailer. Is it crazy that it's already going to be 5 years since the last Spider-Man movie when this comes out? That's nuts.
That's what. Did it come out in 2021?
December 2021.
That can't be right.
Yeah,
that's
it
crazy.
is right. 4.5 years.
Yeah. No, that is correct.
Jeez, man.
That is crazy.
Wow.
A little bit of a change up.
Yeah. Wow.
A little bit of a change up. It's no longer John Watts. It's Destin Daniel Cretton, who most recently we watched Wonder Man, which is a show he directed a couple episodes of, and he was an executive producer for. And it was great. And I think we've all been, stomping at the door of, or just knocking on the door of like, hello, where's the Shang-Chi sequel? What's taking so long? So I was really surprised to see that he was going to go from making a sequel to that to doing Spider-Man. And he was supposed to do King Dynasty originally.
Exactly. It was going from Avengers to this. And, in that, it's a bummer that whatever the plans originally weren't working out for all parties involved. It's a bummer. And if it's just because of the Jonathan Majors of it, that's a bummer that essentially could affect any of this dumb superhero make-em-up stuff. But it makes me very happy to know that Marvel Studios was like, well, we don't want to lose this director. Pivot over here. How would you like to do Spider? That makes me feel like, yes, you guys know that you have such a talented guy in-house. And if he's interested in working on these characters, like, dear Lord, by all means, put him on some of these characters. I might know about some elements of this, but I have no idea what this trailer. I haven't seen a second of this in motion, and it when you were describing how much time has passed since No Way Home, I still feel like we're living in the time of Spider-Man No Way Home. This in a way feels like it snuck up on me. This in a way feels like it's, even though I know they were just filming in like Edinburgh, Scotland, as a replacement for New York or whatever, like last year. And, we all saw the leaked photos of like Peter Parker showing up in the costume and, being so excited, and John Bernthal's on set and all this other stuff. But I still kind of feel like I don't know what the exact formula is going to be for this movie. I don't know exactly where in the MCU timeline it fits. I don't know exactly what is happening in the MCU timeline right now. Like, where are we? What, and how everything is going to build up to Avengers and beyond, and build up to Doomsday and after that. But all I know is Spider-Man is my bud, and I'm happy to see him again. And it's going to be a good time in the theaters. Like, he's my pal.
Hector,
he's my
Spider-Man
buddy.
is more than your bud, dude. Spider-Man is more than your bud. Spider-Man is your spirit essence.
He's my
your
brother.
Spirit essence, my friend. Yeah.
He's my brother from another
your
mother.
Other half. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. He's us.
Yeah,
He's
I'm ready, guys. Let's do it.
All right. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go.
I can't believe our first hit MIT. MJ, come on. Pretend like you're not the happiest you've ever been in your entire life.
I can't.
I knew it.
You got to get off the internet, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Stop trolling your friends.
Oh, that's fun.
Peter.
That was a good shot. Interesting.
Hi, my name is Peter Parker. You don't remember me, but we used to know each other.
God, I hope they get their
Something bad
memories
was gonna
restored.
happen, and the only way to stop it was to make everyone forget about me. Because I'm not just Peter Parker. I'm Spider-Man.
Oh, buddy.
Yes. Hell yeah.
All right, Frank.
Suit yourself.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, Frank. Spider-Man has to do the hard thing, even if it breaks Peter Parker's heart.
Oh, no.
Oh, what?
Peter, get out of there, dude.
What is happening to me?
Ooh, is he evolving? Oh,
He is evolving.
Oh, what the hell?
Stop. He's got organic webs.
Oh,
shit.
even organic webbing?
No mames.
Excuse me, Dr. Banner.
Yeah.
Hey.
What did you say your name was?
say your name was this Peter, man?
If DNA is mutating, it would be enormously
Oh,
Yeah.
are they gonna make him like a official mutant now?
Have 3 life cycles. When between cycles,
Life cycles.
it can leave the spider vulnerable to threats.
Whoa, who's this
Faced
narrating?
with a danger that we can't control.
Whoa, what?
One we can't
What
even
the
see.
heck?
What the hell?
Stay out of my
Scorpion.
way.
Dude, finally Scorpion! Oh shit!
And for those spiders who make it through, it amounts
Look at that.
Hey,
Tarantula.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Are those hand ninjas, dude?
to rebirth.
Dude, it looks so fun.
Rebirth.
It looks so fun.
What?
Nice flowers.
Oh, they're a housewarming gift.
I'm MJ.
I'm just a neighbor from across the hall.
Friendly neighbor.
That's funny. The friendly neighbor.
That's great.
Whoa.
It's a friendly neighbor, yeah. Okay.
So
I gotta put that on
the thing that
Blu-ray
I
as we
loved
talk.
about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man was we got to see some of these characters that, you know, we've been kind of waiting to see them make it to the screen, but to see Scorpion fully in like the Scorpion outfit is very cool. Live action.
And to see Tarantula and to see, let me tell you my favorite, I think my favorite part of the trailer, because it speaks to exactly what you're talking about, Adam.
Mm.
The moment where Spider-Man goes, Frank, what are you doing here? Like they know each other. And I'm like, that's all I want. Don't give me each one of these movies where these characters have to meet for the first time. Give me a movie where Peter Parker met the Punisher 3 years ago and then had to team up with him 2 years ago and then had to fight him a year ago. And it's just this constant bumping up against each other, and they know each other because Marvel comics are great because you can read them once a month and it feels like you're following these characters through essentially like every minute of their lives. And movies can't give you that. Movies are these, we'll see you every 4 years. We'll see you every couple of years. Huge adventure, which is fine. I don't want a character like Spider-Man who deserves a big budget adventure. I don't want them to pivot this to a Disney Plus TV show just to get that serialized storytelling feeling that like you can get from the comics, right? Some characters I think are better suited for that. Street level characters like Daredevil and Defenders. Other characters like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Perfect for that stuff. Perfect for that. Spider-Man deserves movies. He is as iconic of a superhero as there ever has been. But I do want these stories to be like, hey, there's 4 years of this kid's life that you didn't see. Fill in the blanks. Or you know what? We'll put out a tie-in comic book. Or you know what? We'll put out a tie-in novel. Like one of those like
first time they met after 2 years after the events of, whatever.
Who cares, dude? It absolutely, like they should be embracing that kind of, like Star Wars does it all the time. Star Wars comes out with all the tie-in media that just fills in all the blanks. But like I that was my favorite part, is just the way he interacted with Frank Castle, because you go, these guys have a history. Yeah. And we've technically never seen it. I don't care. Like pretend that they do, and it's going to serve the story better, and it's going to feel more Marvel. And more importantly, you're going to take advantage of the fact that we only get to see these characters every couple of years. And Tom Holland is a normal human being who ages. He will eventually be 30 years old, and then 35, and then 40. And I would love to see the character that he plays in these movies, Peter Parker, age with him. I don't want to see these characters stuck in time. I want to see the franchise grow and evolve and move past some of these iconic characters and bring in new iconic characters. So that means when you get a Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, go all out, put in as many things as you can, tell the best Peter Parker story that you can. And I feel like they kind of struck the balance in No Way Home. I felt like it was a very good Peter Parker story while also being the most entertaining fan service we've had in a Marvel movie, maybe ever, maybe of all time. Like the way that those storytellers used all the elements was so perfect. So like to bring that energy to this, except now it's pure MCU, pure Marvel Cinematic Universe. We don't have Andrew Garfield. We don't have Tobey Maguire. We don't have Willem Dafoe. We got John Bernthal, right? We got the Scorpion back from Spider-Man Homecoming. We got potentially like Mr. Negative. We've got all of these great Spider-Man characters and villains and elements that we haven't quite seen in a movie yet. But I'm also the person who's still hoping that like maybe by the end of this or in the next installment, we will get the MCU's version of Norman Osborn. We will get the MCU's version of the Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus and Venom and Eddie Brock and all of these like iconic Spider-Man characters that they still have never done, probably because they have this sort of partnership deal with Sony And Sony probably sees it all as the same thing. They're like, oh, we did Kraven the Hunter. No, you did not, Sony. You did not do Kraven the Hunter. You didn't Aaron Taylor Johnson.
You
rated
did
R.
Kraven the Hunter. We did no such thing.
We did no such thing. I don't know who this we is. I don't know who you're talking about. So I'm hoping that this almost gets us back to those Spider-Man basics of like, okay, yes, we're coming out of the multiverse saga, but like this is what potentially this character could mean to the MCU forever, And I don't want to see Miles earlier than he is needed. I wouldn't hate it if Miles Morales came into the story in a story where Peter Parker died. But I understand how like mind-blowingly impossibly difficult that is to envision for not just fans, but for Sony executives. They're like, no, we're not going to do that. Fine. Then still bring in, I get it. I would love to see a Peter Miles mentorship, but I feel like you need to have enough years removed from the animated Spider-Verse movies. Let those movies cook. Let that do Miles' story. And then years from now, maybe when Tom Holland straight up is like 37 years old, do we do Miles Morales? Do we bring back Donald Glover as Uncle Aaron and here's Miles Morales and here, there's just so much potential. So I don't want to hear from people that like, oh, but you need to have Spider-Man around forever. You don't have to have Peter Parker around forever. Right. Spider-Man survives to the year 2099, you guys. We got plenty of spiders. We got plenty of stories to tell.
Without Peter.
But
yes.
But while we have Peter like do these kinds of stories, and I am really, really excited about it. This movie also feels so colorful and comic booky. Yeah. Very CG, but comic booky, where he's fighting the hand ninjas and it's this big pose. Like it looks great.
That I don't feel like it looks colorful. I feel like this looks grayed out and desaturated. But that's been my complaint for all the Marvel movies. Like I don't. After what Adam and I have been watching, Hector, you were on vacation, but we were watching a bunch of movies, a bunch of animated stuff. It's just like, I that's my only gripe with this at this point. Like, I feel like they could do so much better with the colors because of where it comes from, because of amazing colorists, because of the amazing artists that take so much time and craft to like create what they've created. I don't feel like that's reflected at all in these movies. Like, take the overall color palette here. Spider-Man's reds, great. The rest of the city, brown, gray, black. The whites aren't even that white. The blacks aren't even that black. It's just, it's really not popping for me. And that's really kind of my only criticism of this at this point. It's just like each project, each thing that they do to have its own visual identity too. I don't want this to mix in whenever I think back, even when I think back at something like Thunderbolts, which was recent. Yeah. All I remember is gray. Like, I just remember gray. Yeah, sure, they take you through a bunch of different stuff, but if I'm trying to think about the visual language of that movie, I remember gray. And I'm getting the same kind of thing here where it's just, it feels very grayed out. Obviously, there's a lot of CG, a lot of green screen, a lot of fully replaced bodies and stuff like that. I'm fine with that. I just want the color palettes to be brighter, like be saturated. Don't be afraid of coloring stuff, dude. Yeah. Anyway.
There's some moments where the colors definitely pop off, but it's really mostly just when you see Spider-Man and it's his red, the red part of his suit is the thing that really pops against the background. Yeah. But yeah, once you get into stuff with like Peter and MJ and Ned and some of the other characters, conversational scenes, it feels a little flatter. I mean, and I agree. And I think
look at Scorpion.
It's like Scorpion make him green. Black. Make him green. Damn it.
Yeah, he needs to be green.
I hear that criticism, and I feel like it's because the filmmakers, right, Destin Daniel Cretton, they're trying to make this feel like it's actually New York. It's a naturalistic, almost like an indie movie, like a young lovers movie in New York City, and you're going to get those warm tones and this and that. But I think that there's a valid criticism of like when Marvel movies will have an action sequence set in broad daylight in the middle of the day, that it does tend to feel like that, like, oh, everything is just very flat. Flatly lit. And it's like, okay, fine. You've got your big action sequence in the middle of the movie or at the beginning of the movie in the middle of the day. Usually they'll do something a little more stylized and towards, nighttime or dusk or a different setting to try and do something a bit more interesting visually. But even with this fight with Scorpion at the end where it's maybe at nighttime or something, like, you guys are right. His costume is not necessarily popping green. It's still very like heavily militarized and gray and realistic, whatever that is. When you compare it to it's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Reality 616, the Sacred Timeline. It's supposed to be close-ish to us versus like the Fantastic Four universe, which is supposed to be this 60s Incredibles, hyper stylized, like pseudo 60s retro futuristic thing. And when I think about the colors for that film, I'm like, it's very blue, it's very orange, and it matches with the characters because they went really nuts with the whole world. Or like the Loki TV show is very greens. It's very, because of the sci-fi setting of, the Time Variance Authority.
Right.
But yeah, this feels like, they're trying to just shoot people in their late teens, early 20s in New York, trying to navigate it and try. Yeah, that's fine. But can we do some more interesting periods of the day and do different? It really comes down to the lighting. But again, it's just a trailer. Hopefully there's some really beautiful stuff in this movie. I remembered some great sequences in Shang-Chi, speaking of, where when Shang-Chi had to fight like Death Dealer on the backdrop of like, I think they were in Hong Kong. That really cool neon, almost like Skyfall, like just like the really cool neon buildings type of that was rad and feels new and unique. And maybe we're just too used to seeing New York in a movie, but this also isn't technically New York. It's Edinburgh, Scotland, that's substituting for New York.
I think there's like so many different types of those conversations that are worth having at some point. But locations is a big one. Like a lot of stuff it's not shot in New York. We're shooting somewhere for New York. And I think that adds, you watch the Raimi films, and I'm sure there's a lot of soundstage stuff in there as well.
Oh, 100%.
But there is a lot of like Times Square. There's a lot of these like random New York streets and all that stuff. And I think that's a part of what helps some of those older movies feel a little bit more tangible in a lot of ways, because they are using real streets, they're using real buildings, real locations, and they're enhancing it with visual effects, or they're putting like Tobey Maguire or stunt double swinging through certain parts of the city, or they're putting the camera on a cable car and they're running it through the city or whatever. I think that is a part of it. And also, I do think that just the filmmaking language has changed in 20 years so much with, the advancement of camera technology and us changing over to digital. And the thing that I see a lot of like other cinematographers and people talk about is there's a lot of fear of commitment also, is they like things a little bit more flat so they can go in later digitally and add digital lighting and change the lighting and enhance certain things, as opposed to on the set saying, hey, this is exactly how we're going to light it and this is how we're going to adapt the visual effects into it to make it match. It's a little bit more of like, well, we'll figure it out kind of later, so let's give ourselves the most runway to make changes. And I think a part of the conversation is also the whole idea of trying to make the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this is not just Marvel, it's literally any sort of universe, make it feel like it's realistic or could be a part of our world. I prefer it when it's us being transported into a world. I don't necessarily, I don't want it, I don't need it to, and I don't want it to feel like it's a reflection of what our world looks like. I want it to feel like it's that, I want that universe to have a very specialized, stylized look. And I think we were just talking about Dune. I think that's what makes those sort of franchises stand out, is that you look at it, you go, okay, it's supposed to be humanity in 10,000 years, but man, it's got its own look and feel and vibe and style, and it just feels, there's something about it that just feels very unique, and what you can't really put your hand on, you can't really put your finger on like what it is, but that's kind of the magic of movies, is that you don't know exactly how the sausage is made, but you have an idea of how the sausage is made, but there's a lot of things like under the surface, that are very layered, and you don't know exactly how things are lit or made or produced or whatever, or shot, that I think is a little bit part of like the magic of making movies, that I think has been like lost a little bit. And I think part of that is, you look at movies like the Dark Knight trilogy, we talk about it all the time. We jokingly talk about like, did those movies do more harm than good? Whether it's like for the superhero genre itself, but also for this whole idea of, well, if we want audiences to connect with superhero movies, it's got to feel like it's real. It's got to feel like it could happen in our world. And I'm like, but there needs to be a suspension of disbelief. And obviously there is. It's Spider-Man. He gets bit by a spider, and now he can do all these incredible things. But I think to like still quote unquote ground it, they apply all this like psychology to these movies, so audiences will go, oh, that really makes me feel like I'm connected to the movie in some way. Whereas before it was like, you want to just make this the most sort of like in some ways bombastic interpretation of what these things are. You know, you look at Tim Burton's Batman, that doesn't feel like anything from our world. You look at Superman 78, that also doesn't really feel like anything from our world. And I think I don't know if we'll ever get back to this point. I'm sure at some point, you know, maybe another 20 years or something, we'll get to this place where these fantasy movies are fantasies, and that is how they're represented musically and visually, and with what the characters can do. You know, I think there's a point where you push it too far, right? Like, I love Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, but I totally understand how, like, for some people, it's just too far. It's too silly. It's too fantasy. It's too unbelievable. But I think there's a balance somewhere where you can have like that visual flair, but still have it feel like it follows some like rules of our world without like completely kneecapping what the characters can do in terms of like their powers and stuff.
There's a couple things to argue that point a little bit. There's a couple of things that are specific to Marvel. Like, I mean, you mentioned the great examples of Gotham City or Metropolis, and I agree. I feel like those fictional cities in the United States should always feel unique and not like a real US city, but like an amalgamation of some. But the thing about Marvel is technically since the 60s. Now, are they legit? Are they successful? That's another argument, but they've at least said, Stan Lee and company have said, we are the universe right outside your window, right? We are supposed to be, you can look outside your windows in New York City and picture Iron Man and Thor flying by. That's the New York that they live in. They're not in Gotham. They're not in Metropolis.
Yeah.
So I understand that even though they are fantasy worlds, that Marvel has also technically tried to skew more, especially when compared to DC. They're trying to be more sci-fi. They're trying to be more, hey, this story is just like any other story in our world, but the one difference is this one kid got bitten by a spider. And then he's also going to interact with this other scientist, a normal scientist. Everything is normal except he turned into a big green rage monster. But other than that, everything around them is supposed to be the same, you know, unless it's Asgard or unless it's, you know, the Guardians of the Galaxy and they're up in space or whatever. So it's a tough balance, dude. I don't envy the production designers that have to work on a Spider-Man movie that have to talk about everything we're talking about. Yeah. How do you add visual, interesting stuff to this, but also reassure audiences? But this is just New York. This is just, you know, and it also is part of a larger conversation of how do you introduce sci-fi and fantasy elements into a world like this and not eventually XYZ let one thing lead to another and let it completely get away from you. Meaning, technically, in the Marvel Universe, they've cured death because you could look at like Nick Fury resurrected Phil Coulson by using Kree DNA and all this other, but like you can find bullshit things to basically break the world. And you can even look at some of their big movie moments where like, oh, there's a giant celestial sticking out of the Indian Ocean or whatever, sticking out of the Pacific Ocean. How does that change the world? Apparently not by much until you get to Captain America and Harrison Ford says, ladies and gentlemen, I give you adamantium. Okay, we're going to see the payoff for that in a couple of years. It's not like, it's when you write the sci-fi, it's like, think about Fantastic Four, for instance. It's one thing to put them in their own universe, but I think that also gives them the freedom to go, Reed Richards is so fucking smart, he can solve worldwide problems.
Yeah.
Because if you write a character or a story like that, how do you not let that character just solve it, like get away with everything? How can you still have a story where, you know, Reed Richards might exist in the Marvel Universe, but over in Los Angeles, California, there's still crime happening. It's like, well, why would there be? This guy created teleportation and time travel and this and this and this. It can get to be too much. And the difficult thing with a lot of superhero storytelling across the board is that these stories introduce elements like that, but they also kind of have to maintain a status quo for better or for worse. You have stories where like, this is the revolutionary Killmonger who is challenging King T'Challa of Wakanda to use their technology to help disenfranchise people and black people around the world in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And at the end of that movie, T'Challa goes, he was right. He went too far, but he was right. And we're going to share our technology with the world. How has Wakandan technology not solved every problem since they did that in the fictional year of 2016? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and then does that mean now you're writing that Black Panther, whether it's T'Challa or Shuri or anybody else from Wakanda, now they're just ineffective? now their technology is not good. And you have to balance out of like, no, they have cool sci-fi shit, but we need to tell a story. We can't solve a problem. We need to have conflict in these things, and we need to have enough of a status quo to keep people engaged. And sometimes I think it goes too far a little bit, and people will question it and go, oh, wait, so now Secret Invasion is introducing the most powerful superhuman on the planet because Emilia Clarke has every power ever. And then Marvel kind of goes, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Maybe we'll get to that later. Don't really worry about that. Like, oh, they can clone every superhero now and steal their powers. Guys, this is Spider-Man. He's got to meet Punisher, and they're going to fight. It can be too much. Not to defend the potentially boring or drab visual design of some of these movies, even Thunderbolts, even Captain America Brave New World, whatever. Are we moved past the sort of 2016 Captain America Civil War, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., militarized, gray, concrete look of these movies? I hope so. Maybe it's just a bunch of different factors that are leading it to look the way it does. In any case, I think the Hulk is going to remember who Spider-Man Peter Parker is, but not Bruce Banner. Guys, I've already seen people sharing that comic book panel because that has comic book precedence. That has comic book precedent. Peter does something where Bruce Banner forgets that he's Peter Parker, and when he hulks out, Hulk's like, "Hey, Peter." And Peter's like, "You remember me?" And he's like, "Yeah, I remember you." Like, that's going to happen in the movie, and it's going to be awesome.
Interesting.
It's going to be great.
Okay.
Peter's going to get organic webbing, and it's very, very cool, dude. I'm so very excited about
what's happening with Peter's eyes at the end, towards the end of the trailer.
I don't know, man.
There's
That's
like
crazy.
a bloodshot
I don't know.
eyes thing happening.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like maybe that might have something to do with Mr. Negative. I'm not sure. Mr. Negative's kind of a newer character, but he was introduced in the Brand New Day storyline from like 2007.
I see.
And to be honest, like many Spider-Man fans, I was a little hurt when those comics are coming out because that was when they had the devil erase Peter and MJ's relationship. So I was like, man, they were married and now they're not. I don't like this. Listen, dude. Leave it to Marvel Studios to be like, hey, you think that's a bad storyline and you didn't like the creative direction of that? Bet. Watch us cook. We're going to use that. MJ and Peter. MJ forgot who Peter was. Let's see what we can do. Let's see if they'll bring in Sacha Baron Cohen's Mephisto in this. I doubt it, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. Augustine, I think if anything, the one thing to keep in mind, because I know we talk about this as a group all the time, is like, it's sometimes hard to judge the movie on the trailer because then the movie comes out and you're like, oh, they changed a lot of stuff. And I'm saying this more to our audience than you, but then you've got all these these movies come in so many different formats, that you're like, oh, well, what's the most optimal way to see it? I'm like, honestly, like you should go see this movie in Dolby Cinema probably, because I'm sure it'll also come out in 3D. So I would also recommend seeing it in 3D. But I don't know if this is getting an IMAX release. I think it is.
It said large formats.
Yeah, but it's coming out, I think, like a week or two after The Odyssey, and I don't know how long.
Right.
I think The Odyssey has like a 2-week guarantee on IMAX theaters. So it might. It might. But usually it'll say, because it says in premium formats, usually it'll say like in IMAX specifically. And this one only says in premium format. So we'll see if it's also going to get sort of the Avengers Doomsday treatment where it won't, unfortunately, make it to IMAX. But I would say, let's wait to see. But you should definitely go see movies like Spider-Man, like a lot of these Marvel movies, in a premium format. Because I think Dolby is kind of one of the better ways to see it, because it's, in my opinion, the truest representation of what the directors usually intend. Because, when it goes to like Blu-ray, not HD Blu-ray, but like 4K Blu-ray, a lot of these movies will have Dolby Vision, and like, truthfully, I think Dolby Vision in a lot of ways surpasses HDR10 because you can really, really manipulate the look on a shot-for-shot basis. So, yeah, like my point being that the movie, the way it looks now in this first trailer, will very likely, not drastically, but it will change. It will iterate. It will look different.
Yes, and I know we've been talking for a while, but yes, but also look at all the shots in here. There's not a single clear blue sky in any of these shots. It's all gray haze. And that's, I don't know how much of a change is going to happen there. But anyways, yes, there's still a lot of chance. And mainly I said that so hopefully they'll hear me, hopefully they'll be like, hey guys, let's just take the clouds away. Great. Give me a clear blue sky. Come on. Give me something.
Sometimes that happens in New York. Sometimes there's clear blue skies.
Yeah.
There's gorgeous days in New York in the summer, man. It's
all the time.
best.
Hector, you're asking about the timeline. According to Aunt May's tombstone, she died in 2024, and this takes place 5 years later. So I guess it's 2029.
Well, didn't they say it was 4 years later?
Is it 4?
Or am I wrong? I maybe. So it could be 2028, but basically, if you're not counting the like post-credit scenes of Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, then this is the most recent thing. This is the most furthest along in the timeline story. And then everything's going to come to a head.
Yeah, it's around 2028.
Probably in the year. Yeah, exactly. So, but to Augustine's point, what time of the year in New York does this take place? Is this in the, honestly, like if it's in kind of like a overcasty season, fine. But if it's supposed to be in the summer, you better give me some blue skies, guys. Come on.
It's got to be hot. I've been in New York when it's hot. It's fucking hot.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's fucking hot out there. Yep. So yeah,
that's too funny.
Central Park, right. Beautiful.
I think at the end of the day, I'm really stoked that the other thing too is like, you know, Tom Holland always talks about how when he becomes a dad, he's going to kind of like go away from acting. So if this is the start of like of the last maybe like trilogy of Tom Holland Spider-Man, then I think it totally plays into your whole idea of like, let's bring in Miles Morales. Like really, like let's start setting up passing the torch to another Spider-Man, because Tom Holland, the actor, has finality. He's not going to want to play this character until he's 50. It's not likely that he'll want to do it, but
he
you know,
could.
He could. But if he has other life priorities, like he wants to be a dad and he wants to semi-retire from acting, then like that's understandable. It's
he
like
wants
the same
to teach his kids ballet and like do cool things.
Go to the opera,
like, let him do that.
To the cinema, you know, do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So like I think that by the time we get this second trilogy, if it is going to be a second trilogy, you know, you're looking at like another 6 to 8 years of time. I think it's a perfect opportunity to start building in and bring in other potential replacements for Peter Parker. Even if he just assumes a mentor role, even if he doesn't necessarily die right away. I think there's lots of opportunities for the future of this character.
He doesn't always have to die.
Exactly. He doesn't. You know, he can elevate to a mentorship role. You know, I think that's very possible.
Yeah.
Man.
But we'll see. Looking forward to it.
It's the best, dude.
I know. Only a few months left before we get to see it, so I'm very, very excited to see what Destin Daniel Cretton does with this character. But guys, check out our reactions for your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I think you guys will really like those. We'll be putting those out on YouTube soon as well. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this. Let us know what you think about this movie. From a visual standpoint, what do you think about it? But also story-wise, what are you looking forward to seeing? And could this be the start of a new final trilogy for Tom Holland Spider-Man? Let us know. Check out everything else we're watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!